Hey everyone, it's James and welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're diving headfirst into the shadows, into those dark corners of cinema that leave us with more questions than answers. Have you ever finished a horror movie and just sat there staring at the credits, completely unsettled not just by what you saw but by what you didn't see? We're going on a journey to explore some of the creepiest, most enduring mysteries from the world of horror films. These aren't just plot holes, they're enigmas that have taken on a life of their own, becoming modern-day folklore, whispered among fans. There's a unique thrill, a morbid fascination that comes with these unsolved cinematic puzzles. It's the feeling that the horror doesn't end when the movie does. These mysteries challenge us, they burrow into our minds and refuse to leave, making us part of the investigation. From cursed film sets where reality seemed to bleed into fiction, to real-life tragedies that are forever intertwined with the movies they inspired, the stories behind the screams are often more terrifying than the films themselves. These tales have become legendary, achieving an almost mythical status in horror culture. So grab your flashlight, maybe a blanket, no judgment here, and join me as we peel back the layers of these terrifying enigmas. We'll look at the evidence, the theories, and the chilling coincidences that have kept these stories alive for decades. Are they just unfortunate events, or is there something more sinister at play? That's the question we're here to ask. But be warned, sometimes the truth is far stranger and far more frightening than any script. Let's get into it. Let's start with a film that many consider the most terrifying of all time, The Exorcist. Released in 1973, it wasn't just the on-screen demonic possession that petrified audiences. It was the whispered rumors of a real-life curse that plagued the production. Now, film sets can be chaotic, things go wrong, that's just the nature of the business. But the sheer volume and bizarre nature of the incidents on this set are, frankly, hard to dismiss as mere coincidence. It all began with a fire. The entire interior set of the McNeil family home mysteriously burned to the ground one night, causing a 6-week delay in production. Here's where it gets truly strange. The only part of the set that remained completely untouched by the flames? The bedroom of the possessed character Reagan. Just think about that for a second. The demonic epicenter of the film was the one place the fire wouldn't go. Crew members were so spooked by this that director William Friedkin brought in a priest to perform a blessing on the set. But if they thought that would solve their problems, they were dead wrong. The eerie occurrences didn't stop. If anything, they seemed to escalate. The set itself was notoriously difficult. To capture the authentic bone-chilling breath of the actors in the exorcism scenes, the bedroom was refrigerated to sub-zero temperatures. This created an incredibly harsh working environment, leading to injuries and general misery. But it was the offset events that truly cemented the legend of the curse. A string of deaths, 9 in total, were associated with the film's production. This included Media Group, still of Jack McGowan as Burke Dennings, portrait of Jack McGowan, vintage photo of actor looking frail at it, stock at it, distribute _equally, actor Jack McGowan, whose character, Burke Dennings, dies a violent death in the film. McGowan himself died from influenza shortly after completing his scenes. Then there was Vasiliki Maliaros, the actress who played the mother of Father Karras. She had no prior acting experience and was cast for her authentic look. She passed away before the film was even released. Other deaths included a night watchman on the set, a special effects expert, and even the grandfather of Linda Blair, the young actress who played Reagan. The sheer number of fatalities connected, even tangentially to the production, is statistically staggering. It creates a pattern that's hard to ignore. The film's star, Ellen Burstyn, who played Chris McNeil, suffered a permanent spinal injury during a scene where she's thrown to the floor by her possessed daughter. A wire rig pulled her too hard, and her real scream of pain is the one you hear in the final cut. She has spoken for years about the nebulous negative energy that seemed to surround the entire production. Even Linda Blair was injured when a piece of lacing on the harness rig broke, jarring her back. It felt like the film was actively fighting back against those trying to make it. The film's premiere in Rome added another layer to the legend. The theater was located across the street from a 400-year-old church. During the premiere, a massive storm rolled in, and lightning struck the church's cross, sending it crashing to the ground below. Coincidence? Maybe. But for a film about a battle between good and evil, it's a detail that's almost too perfect, too symbolic to just brush aside. It's the kind of thing that makes the hair on your arms stand up. Even audiences weren't safe. There were widespread reports of viewers fainting, vomiting, and having hysterical reactions in theaters across the country. Some theaters even started handing out Exorcist barf bags. It was a cultural phenomenon of terror. The film seemed to carry its malevolent energy out of the studio and into the real world, affecting everyone who came into contact with it. The line between the supernatural fiction on screen and the unsettling reality of its creation became terrifyingly blurred. So what are we left with? A series of unfortunate accidents and tragedies amplified by the film's horrifying subject matter? Or was there a genuine negative force at play drawn to the story being told? The cast and crew were dealing with themes of profound evil on a daily basis. Did they inadvertently invite something in? To this day, the curse of The Exorcist remains one of Hollywood's most chilling and debated legends, a testament to a film that was, perhaps, a little too good at its job. If The Exorcist had a curse, then the Poltergeist trilogy had a full-blown plague. The series is infamous not for one but for a string of tragedies, the most heartbreaking of which is the death of its young star, Heather O'Rourke. She was the face of the franchise, the sweet little girl who famously declared, "They're here!" Her sudden and mysterious death at the age of 12 during the post-production of Poltergeist 3 has been the subject of intense speculation and sorrow for decades. Heather was a healthy, vibrant kid. In early 1987, she was misdiagnosed with Crohn's disease and put on medication. But on February 1, 1988, she collapsed at her home. On the way to the hospital, she suffered cardiac arrest and, despite efforts to save her, passed away on the operating table. The official cause of death was determined to be cardiac arrest caused by septic shock due to a previously undiagnosed congenital intestinal stenosis or bowel obstruction. It was a shocking, tragic end to a young life. The suddenness and the rarity of her condition immediately fueled speculation. Fans and conspiracy theorists alike began connecting her death to the so-called Poltergeist curse. The theory goes that the use of real human skeletons as props in the first film's iconic swimming pool scene, a cost-saving measure, believe it or not, unleashed a vengeful spirit or curse upon the production and its cast. It's a chilling thought that, in an attempt to create fake horror, the filmmakers stumbled into something horribly real, and Heather's death wasn't an isolated incident. Dominique Dunne, who played the older sister Dana in the first film, was tragically murdered by her ex-boyfriend in 1982, the same year the movie was released. She was only 22. Her death cast a dark shadow over the film's success from the very beginning. It was the first event that led people to whisper the word curse, a whisper that would grow to a roar over the next few years. Two other actors from the series also died under unusual circumstances. Julian Beck, who played the terrifying preacher Cain in Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, died of stomach cancer in 1985. While he had been diagnosed before filming, his gaunt, skeletal appearance in the movie was so genuinely unsettling that his death became woven into the fabric of the curse legend. Then Will Sampson, who played the benevolent Shaman Taylor in the sequel, died of post-operative kidney failure in 1987. Sampson himself had allegedly performed an exorcism on the set of the second film to cleanse it of alien spirits. The theories surrounding Heather's death specifically are wide-ranging. Some stick to the supernatural curse, believing she was targeted because she was the innocent heart of the films. Others delve into darker, more terrestrial conspiracies, though none have ever been substantiated with any credible evidence. The medical explanation, while tragic, is the most logical. However, the sheer unlikelihood of it all, combined with the other deaths, makes it a difficult pill for many to swallow. It feels too cruel to be random. What makes this mystery so enduring is the profound sense of loss. Heather O'Rourke wasn't just an actress, she was a child who represented innocence in the face of terror. Her on-screen vulnerability was what made the film so effective. To have her life cut short in such a sudden, inexplicable way feels like a cruel twist of fate, mirroring the very horror her films depicted. It blurs the line between the story and reality in the most painful way imaginable. Ultimately, we are left with a heartbreaking medical tragedy surrounded by a series of other deeply unfortunate events. Is it a curse? Or is it a case of humans trying to find a pattern, a reason, for a series of random, senseless tragedies? The Poltergeist curse persists because it offers a narrative, a dark, supernatural one, but a narrative nonetheless, for events that are otherwise too painful and chaotic to comprehend. It's a way of trying to make sense of the senseless, but the mystery and the sadness remain. The Amityville Horror is a unique case on our list because the mystery doesn't come from the film set, but from the so-called true story that inspired it all. In 1975, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and their 3 children, moved into a large Dutch colonial house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. They fled in terror just 28 days later, claiming they were driven out by paranormal forces. Their story became a best-selling book and then a blockbuster horror film, but the central question has always been, what really happened in that house? The backstory is undeniably horrific. 13 months before the Lutzes moved in, the house was the site of a gruesome mass murder. Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed his parents and 4 younger siblings as they slept in their beds. DeFeo's story changed multiple times, but he was convicted of the murders. The house, therefore, already had a dark, violent history. The Lutzes claimed that this history manifested as a demonic presence that tormented them from the moment they moved in. Their list of paranormal claims is extensive and frankly, terrifying if true. They reported swarms of flies in the middle of winter, strange odors, and cold spots. Kathy claimed to levitate in her sleep and receive red welts on her skin. George would wake up every morning at 3:15 a.m., the approximate time of the DeFeo murders, and became increasingly sullen and angry. They reported seeing a pig-like creature with glowing red eyes, green slime oozing from the walls, and an invisible marching band in the living room. The most famous part of their story involves a priest who came to bless the house. As he sprinkled holy water, he allegedly heard a demonic voice command him to get out, and was later afflicted with a high fever and stigmata-like blisters on his hands. This event became a cornerstone of the Amityville legend, cementing the idea that the evil in the house was powerful and actively hostile to anything holy. The story was a media sensation, a perfect storm of true crime and supernatural horror. However, almost immediately, the story began to unravel. Skeptics and investigators started poking holes in the Lutzes' claims. For starters, Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s own lawyer, William Weber, came forward and admitted that he and the Lutzes had concocted the story over many bottles of wine. He claimed the goal was to create a lucrative book deal. This is a massive blow to the story's credibility. If the lawyer for the original murderer says it was a hoax, that's hard to ignore. Researchers pointed out numerous inconsistencies. The priest, Father Pecoraro, stated in a sworn affidavit that his conversations with the Lutzes were far less dramatic than they claimed. There was no physical evidence of the green slime, the broken doors, or any of the other damage the Lutzes described. Neighbors didn't hear any marching bands. Even the weather records didn't match up with their claims of a storm that damaged the boathouse. The foundation of the story seemed to be built on sand. Despite the evidence pointing towards a hoax, many people still believed the Lutzes. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren famously investigated the house and declared it to be genuinely haunted, capturing a now famous photograph of what they claim is the spirit of a young boy peeking from a doorway. Believers argue that the lack of physical evidence is typical of paranormal phenomena, which often leave no trace. They maintain that the Lutzes were telling the truth about a terrifying experience that was simply too strange for skeptics to accept. So, what's the truth? Were the Lutzes a family traumatized by a genuine haunting, or clever opportunists who capitalized on a tragedy? Or could it be something in between? Perhaps they experienced some unsettling things, amplified by the house's grim history and their imaginations filled in the rest. The Amityville Horror is the ultimate, she said, of paranormal cases. It's a mystery that endures because it pits personal testimony against a lack of physical proof, leaving us to decide who and what we choose to believe. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is honestly a masterpiece of psychological horror, and it's so much more than just a ghost story. It's really a labyrinth of ambiguity, and its central mystery isn't just a single question, but actually a cascade of them. The film is famous for what it tells you. Set in the isolated snowbound Overlook Hotel, the film traps its characters, and honestly the audience too, in a state of perpetual uncertainty. The biggest question of all, what is actually happening to Jack Torrance? Is the Overlook Hotel genuinely haunted like a malevolent entity that actively corrupts its caretaker? Or is Jack simply succumbing to cabin fever, his isolation and pre-existing alcoholism just driving him into a violent psychosis? The film presents compelling evidence for both interpretations, and Kubrick masterfully refuses to give us a clear answer. This deliberate ambiguity is, honestly, what makes The Shining a subject of endless debate and analysis. It's a puzzle box with no single solution. So, let's look at the supernatural evidence. Jack has conversations with ghosts, specifically Delbert Grady, the former caretaker who murdered his family. Danny, his son, has The Shining, a psychic ability that allows him to see the hotel's gruesome past and its ghostly inhabitants, like those infamous twin girls. We see a river of blood pouring from the elevators, a scene actually witnessed by Wendy. These events seem to exist outside of Jack's perception, suggesting the haunting is real and objective. But then, Kubrick plays with our minds. He litters the film with inconsistencies and impossible geography. The layout of the Overlook Hotel makes no architectural sense. Doors lead to nowhere, windows appear on walls that should be landlocked within the hotel. Is this just a continuity error from a notoriously meticulous director? Unlikely. Many fans believe these spatial impossibilities are meant to disorient the viewer, to make us feel just as lost and confused as the Torrance family. It suggests the horror is psychological, a breakdown of reality itself. One of the most debated elements is the final shot of the film. After Jack freezes to death in the hedge maze, the camera slowly pushes in on a photograph on the hotel wall. It's from the Overlook's 4th of July ball in 1921. And there, front and center, smiling at the camera, is Jack Torrance. What does this mean? Has he been absorbed by the hotel? Is it a story of reincarnation suggesting Jack has been the caretaker? Or is it purely symbolic, a representation of his soul being trapped there forever? The film is also packed with subtle clues and potential subtext that have spawned countless fan theories. One of the most famous is that the film is an allegory for the genocide of Native Americans, as the hotel is explicitly stated to be built on an Indian burial ground. The Calumet baking powder cans with their Native American chief logo are prominently displayed in the pantry. This theory suggests the hotel's haunting is the vengeful spirits of the desecrated land seeking retribution. Other theories are even more outlandish, yet honestly strangely compelling. Some argue the film is Kubrick's veiled confession for faking the Apollo 11 moon landing, pointing to Danny's Apollo 11 sweater and the strange patterns in the carpet. Others see it as an exploration of the Holocaust, or a commentary on the cyclical nature of violence and abuse. The film is so dense with imagery and detail that it can support a multitude of interpretations, none of which can be definitively proven or disproven. The Shining doesn't just present a mystery, it's a mystery. It's a film that demands to be rewatched, analyzed, and debated. Kubrick gives us all the pieces but refuses to show us the final picture. Is the evil in the hotel, or is it in the man? Is it supernatural, psychological, or historical? The fact that we're still asking these questions over 40 years later is a testament to the film's power. It haunts us, not with jump scares, but with the chilling realization that some questions have no answers. Some films just, feel cursed. We've talked about The Exorcist and Poltergeist, but honestly, the series of bizarre and terrifying events surrounding the 1976 film The Omen is so specific, so targeted, that it feels less like a curse and more like a targeted campaign of, something. The film, about a US ambassador who discovers his son Damien is the Antichrist, seemed to be plagued by a dark force that mirrored the movie's own sinister plot, almost as if the devil himself was a credited producer. The troubles actually began before filming even started. The son of lead actor Gregory Peck died by suicide just 2 months before production began. Then, during filming, Peck was scheduled to fly to Israel, but he canceled at the last minute. The charter plane he was supposed to be on crashed, killing everyone on board. It was a horrifyingly close call, but the story gets even stranger. A few weeks later, the film's executive producer Mace Neufeld was on a flight to Los Angeles that was struck by lightning. Think about that for a second. The star of the film narrowly avoids a fatal plane crash, and then the producer's plane is struck by lightning. That's already unsettling enough, right? But then, screenwriter David Seltzer was also on a plane that was struck by lightning. 3 key figures of the production, all involved in separate, terrifying incidents involving air travel. The odds of this happening by chance are astronomically low. It really felt like something was actively trying to keep this movie from being made, or at least punish those who were making it. And the bad luck wasn't just confined to the air. During a shoot at a safari park, the animal handlers had a particularly bad day. A tiger handler was killed by one of his animals shortly after the crew wrapped their scene. The sequence involving vicious Rottweilers also went totally awry when the trained dogs, for no apparent reason, turned and attacked their own stuntman trainer, ignoring all commands. It was as if the animals in the film were being influenced by the movie's dark subject matter. The film's director, Richard Donner, also had a brush with death. During the production in London, the hotel he was staying at was bombed by the IRA. He was, luckily, not in the building at the time. This, combined with the plane incidents and the animal attacks, created an atmosphere of intense paranoia on set. Crew members started to feel like they were being targeted, that the story they were telling was attracting a very real, very malevolent energy. But honestly, the most chilling story connected to the Omen curse, the one that serves as its terrifying postscript, happened over a year after the film was released. John Richardson, the special effects artist who designed the film's gruesome death scenes, was working on another movie in the Netherlands. He was in a car crash. The accident was horrific, and his assistant, Liz Moore, was cut in half by the wheel of the car, a death eerily similar to a decapitation scene Richardson himself had designed for The Omen. As if that parallel wasn't horrifying enough, when a dazed Richardson stumbled from the wreckage, he looked up and saw a road sign. It read, Omen, 66.6 kilometers. The name of the nearby town was Omen, and the distance was the number of the beast. It's a coincidence so perfect, so utterly terrifying, that it defies all rational explanation. It's the kind of detail that turns a series of unfortunate events into a legend of a genuine curse. Was it all just a string of horrific coincidences, amplified by a clever marketing campaign for a horror film? That's the rational explanation. But the sheer number of incidents, their severity, and the chilling specificity of the John Richardson story make it really difficult to dismiss entirely. The Omen curse feels different. It feels personal. It's a story that suggests that when you make a movie about the devil, you might just get his attention. In the late 90s and early 2000s, a new wave of horror kind of washed over the world, originating from Japan. Films like Ringu, which was remade as The Ring, and Ju-On, remade as The Grudge, introduced Western audiences to a totally different kind of fear. It wasn't about jump scares or masked killers, it was about this creeping, atmospheric dread. The central mystery of these films lies in their antagonists, the Onryo, or vengeful ghosts like Sadako and Kayako, and the inexplicable viral nature of their curses. Unlike Western ghosts who might haunt a specific place, these spirits attach themselves to people, spreading like a disease. In The Ring, watching a cursed videotape dooms you to death in 7 days at the hands of Sadako, a ghostly girl who crawls out of your television set. The mystery isn't just who is this ghost, but how does this curse actually work? It's a supernatural mechanism with a set of bizarre, unbreakable rules. Why 7 days? Why a videotape? Why does she come out of the TV? The film provides a tragic backstory for Sadako, a powerful psychic girl thrown down a well to die by her own father. Her rage and sorrow become imprinted on the world, creating the curse. But this explanation only raises more questions. How does a human spirit gain the power to manipulate technology, to project images onto a tape, and to physically manifest through electronic devices? The film doesn't explain the how, and that's what makes it so terrifying. It's a supernatural force that operates on a logic we can't possibly comprehend. The Grudge takes this concept even further. Here, the curse is born from a moment of intense rage. When Kayako Saeki is murdered by her jealous husband, her anger becomes a permanent stain on the house where she died. The curse isn't tied to an object, but to a location. Anyone who enters the house becomes infected by her rage, and the curse follows them, eventually consuming them and anyone they come into contact with. It's a contagion of pure hate. The horror of The Grudge is in its relentlessness and its lack of rules. There's no 7-day timer, no way to appease the ghost or pass the curse on. Once you're marked by Kayako and her son Toshio, you are doomed. They can appear anywhere at any time, under your bedsheets, in your attic, even in your office building miles away from the original house. The mystery is in its terrifying, boundless nature. How can a ghost's anger be so powerful that it transcends physical space and time? These films tap into really deep-seated cultural fears. The Onryo is a staple of Japanese folklore, a spirit wronged in life who seeks indiscriminate vengeance in death. They're not meant to be understood or reasoned with. They're forces of nature, like a hurricane or an earthquake. The mystery isn't something to be solved by the characters, it's something to be survived, and well, most of them don't. This is a fundamental difference from many Western ghost stories, where the goal is often to help the spirit find peace. The unsettling atmosphere in these films is key. They're often quiet, filled with long takes and mundane settings that are suddenly violated by the supernatural. The iconic croaking sound Kayako makes, the glitchy, surreal images on Sadako's tape, these elements create a sense of deep unease. The horror comes from the familiar being twisted into the monstrous. A television set, a closet, the space under your covers all become portals for an ancient, unknowable rage. Ultimately, the mystery of the ring and the grudge is the mystery of profound negative emotion. Can rage, sorrow, and injustice become so powerful that they literally change the fabric of reality? These films say yes. They present a world where human feeling can become a weapon, a curse that spreads and infects without reason or mercy. The lack of a clear scientific explanation is the entire point. We're left feeling as helpless and confused as the characters, haunted by a fear we can't rationalize away. Our final mystery isn't from a movie, but it has inspired so many of them. It's a real-life event that's so strange, so terrifying, and so utterly unsolved that it feels like it was written by a horror screenwriter. I'm talking about the Dyatlov Pass incident. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers ventured into the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. They never returned. When a search party finally found their campsite, what they discovered was a scene of baffling horror that has defied explanation for over 60 years. The hikers' tent was found ripped open from the inside. It was clear they had fled in a panic, cutting their way out into the brutal sub-zero night. But why? There was no sign of a struggle, no other footprints besides their own. They had abandoned their warm clothing, their shoes, and all their supplies, running out into the deadly cold in various states of undress. This alone is deeply disturbing. What could possibly frighten 9 seasoned hikers so much that they would choose certain death in the freezing wilderness over staying in their tent? The bodies were found scattered across the area, some nearly a mile from the camp. The first 2 were found by a tree line, dressed only in their underwear with evidence they had tried to start a fire. 3 more, including the group's leader, Igor Dyatlov, were found between the tree and the tent, seemingly having died of hypothermia while trying to return. These first 5 deaths, while strange, could at least be explained by the cold. It was the discovery of the final 4 bodies that turned a tragedy into an enduring, terrifying mystery. 3 months later, the remaining 4 hikers were found in a ravine, buried under more than 10 feet of snow. Unlike the others, they had suffered horrific internal injuries. One had major chest fractures, another had a crushed skull. These injuries were described by a medical examiner as being equivalent to the force of a car crash. And yet, there were no external wounds, no soft tissue damage. It was as if they had been crushed by some immense invisible pressure. The bizarre details don't stop there. One of the women, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. And to top it all off, several of their clothing items were found to be radioactive. Not dangerously so, but enough to be considered unusual. The official investigation was abruptly closed, with the final report concluding that the hikers died as a result of a compelling natural force. A conclusion so vague it's almost insulting. The theories attempting to explain what happened are as wild as the incident itself. They range from an avalanche, which doesn't explain the internal injuries or the tent being cut from the inside, to an attack by the local Mansi people, which was ruled out as their injuries were not consistent with a human attack. More exotic theories include secret military weapons testing, an encounter with a UFO, or even a run-in with a Russian Yeti. The Dyatlov Pass incident is the embodiment of cosmic horror. It's a story about a group of capable people who ventured into the wilderness and encountered something so powerful and incomprehensible that it broke them. The lack of answers is what makes it so terrifying. It represents the ultimate fear, the fear of the unknown. This real-life event has become a touchstone for horror writers and filmmakers, inspiring movies like Devil's Pass, because it validates our deepest anxieties about what might be lurking in the dark, unexplored corners of our world. The mystery of what happened on that frozen mountainside remains a chilling testament to the fact that sometimes reality is far more horrifying than any fiction we can create. The hikers of the Dyatlov group weren't characters in a film. They were real people. And the unknown force that led to their deaths is still out there, its true nature lost to the Siberian winds, leaving us with nothing but terrifying questions. And there you have it. From cursed film sets to real-life tragedies that just, defy explanation, The world of horror is filled with mysteries that are just as terrifying as the movies themselves. We've journeyed through stories of supernatural interference, heartbreaking loss, and events so strange they blur the line between fact and fiction. It seems that the most enduring horror isn't always what's on screen, but the unanswered questions that linger long after the credits roll. These stories stick with us because they challenge our understanding of the world. So, what do you think really happened in these terrifying tales? Was the set of The Exorcist genuinely cursed by a malevolent force? What is the truth behind the Amityville haunting? And what unknown horror did those hikers encounter on Dyatlov Pass? The beauty and the terror of these mysteries is that there are no easy answers, leaving the door open for endless speculation. I want to know what you believe. Head down to the comments and share your theories, your explanations, or any other favorite horror movie mysteries that keep you up at night. Thank you so much for joining me on this dive into the unknown. If you enjoyed unraveling these chilling stories, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. We'll be looking into more unexplained events that will send a shiver down your spine because the truth is out there, and it's usually terrifying. Stay safe and always check under the bed.